Hey, it's time for the Robot Slam with GBT-06 Nova Grapplers. So again, GBT-06 dropped recently, I updated my deck. So I am not running Rumble anymore, now I'm running Extreme Battler Cabochon. And it's the new starter, and I know Rumble is still really good. I was thinking about still running it, but I've been looking at Cabochon, and it actually makes really nice plays, so I'm actually going to run Cabochon instead. What it does is, Counterblast 1, GB1, move itself into the soul, pick a rear guard after this unit boosts, stand the rear guard and give it +2. So it works really well first, like start at like you get, if you have an on-hit ability and it doesn't work, you can still use this. And back again with the deck, when you would ride like a PG or 6K, and you had to call Rumble over here, your opponent didn't need to guard because you probably wouldn't see a trigger and hit. So now you can finally call your booster behind your Vanguard and still get that boost for the early game if you don't call a grade 1. So Cabochon, I really like Cabochon. It makes some pretty nice combos, which I'll show you later. Next, I'm running the same trigger lineup, but I'm running different triggers just for the sake of having more GBT-06. I'm running 4 Totem Brothers, the GBT-06 draw, which looks hilarious. Like, it looks like a friggin' robot squid. Like, this thing is just really funny looking, so I'm glad that I'm running it.
It's a totem pole.
Next, I'm running 4 heal triggers, which is Training Therapist, which is just some weird robot dog thing, but again, new heal trigger. So next, the obvious Nova Grappler staple, 4 copies of Red Lightning, especially with G, because we all know how counterblast heavy that is, so you gotta run 4 Red Lightnings because it's an unflip. And lastly, I'm running 4 of the newly released Victor crit, Extreme Battler Break Pass. So when your Victor Vanguard attacks, move itself into soul +5k, draw 1. So obviously it's a GB, it's centered around my GB character cards, so running this at 4. Grade 1s, I dropped Final Wrench for the new Extreme Battler Malyaki, which is a really nice card. Like, this card destroyed Final Wrench. What it does is, when your units in, this unit gives a card in the same column the ability, when this unit restands and attacks, give 2 units 4k. So to explain that, let's say this was your column. You attack for 14, use a card ability, restand. This ability now activates to attack, the ability it gave to the other one, you can give 2 cards 4k. And it doesn't say other cards. You could give it to itself and its booster. If the booster was still stood, you could give it to another column. But Extreme Battler Malyaki is an amazing card. If you're running a Victor deck, you have to run at least 2 because Malyaki is just amazing and makes dumb numbers. Malyaki is actually another reason as to why I run Cabochon, because with Rumble and Final Wrench, I would usually want Final Wrench behind a rear because that's going to be what's going to be restanding the most. But because Rumble also restands, I wouldn't put Final Wrench behind my main target. But now, I put Cabochon behind the Vanguard and have a Malyaki over here behind what would be my main standing target. I can keep giving it abilities because Malyaki's ability that it gives to the card in front of it, it stacks. So you can keep giving it the ability. When this unit stands, it gets the 4k. So yeah, it gives an ability that grants an ability on stand. So the Malyaki attack plus 4k to 2 cards, you can keep giving it that ability provided it keeps restanding. So you could go nothing, restand, 4/4, restand, 4/4, ability number 2 activates 4/4. So Malyaki minimum 2, fantastic card. Again, G Nova Grappler, counterblast heavy as all hell. So 4 copies of Claydol Mechanic, on call, unflip 1. The deck got a lot less counterblasty with my GBT-06 build, but again, this is still a pretty important card. But because of how counterblast heavy how many counterblasts I took it, I'm considering going 3 Yaki, 3 Claydol. But as of now, I'm running 4 Claydol, which is just because it still works really well. Again, G profile, 4 Stride Fodder, 2 of them signed. On call, if you have a reveal grade 3 search for Victor, add to hand, and Stride grade +2. And lastly, 4 copies of Lady Cyclone, the GPG, which is the unflip 1, because again, it's still pretty counterblasty, so I like to run that. Grade 2s, my grade 2 lineup is the same. 3 copies of Extreme Battler Kenbeam, 10k vanilla to stop rushing. 4 copies of Sazanda, which is when it stands, it gets 5k. So that just reaches dumb numbers. We all know what Sazanda is. And 4 copies of Cool Hank. If you notice something about this, I'm not really running rush cards, because there aren't really super strong rush units, especially with stuff like Sazanda running around. So I don't really use rushes. But I am considering taking up Cool Hank for the Glimmer Breath version of that, which is Cool Hank's ability, but not boosted, but it also gets 2k, which is Extreme Battler Aberrail. Also kind of want to run it because if you watch Gurren Logon, it looks like Logon, while Break Pass looks like Gurren, so that's just for me.
It's a team of manliness.
Oh god, Miles. But yeah, I like Cool Hank now because Hanky Danky, but I might run Aberrail. But both of them good options. They both have their own merits to them. So your call. Next, grade 3, my new backup, which I replaced Raybird with, which is Extreme Battler Dan Shark, which SP because I pulled that today. It's the Liddy clone, so on ride, counter +1, soul +1, checked up 5 for rush, add to hand. I never use that ability even if I have to ride it because I don't run enough rush cards. I don't run any rush cards besides itself because Molyaki gives a rush ability. Molyaki does not have a rush ability. So that skill is completely pointless for this card. And I run it for its rear guard ability because I always want to ride Victor. So I would also find myself in situations where I didn't really have grade 2s I wanted to call, so I would have to call Raybird. And this card actually has a rear guard ability, which isn't half bad at all. What it is rush, so when this unit restands, it gains the ability on hit counterblast 1, retire a rear guard. So it actually applies some pretty nice pressure if it restands because the on hit kill 1, and retiring with Nova Grappler is always nice because again it's on a retired deck, so any retire just helps add fuel to it. So I really like Dan Shark. It's a really nice addition and it's just a really good card to the deck, so I like it a lot more than Rayburn. And main grade 3 we got Extreme Battler Victor, so GB2, when Victor attacks, stand a rear guard, the rear guard gets 5k and Victor himself also gets 5k. And on stride, so when you stride, the G unit you stride into gains the ability, when this unit attacks the Vanguard, counterblast 1, restand arrested rear guard, and that unit gains 5k. So it's the stride bonus, it's a really good one, especially for Nova Grapplers, so it's also the main card of the deck. So now we're going to go into the G zone, which is probably what changed the most out of my new deck. So as you saw just now, 1 copy of Victon because the on hit's still pretty nice. And if I don't have a lot of like rear guard support, it's a nice go-to stride just to get some hand management. Still running 1 copy of Tri-Brute, which is when your rear guard stands by a card effect, counterblast 1, that card that stood gains 2k, and you can retire an opponent's rear guard with less power. I cut it down because of the new card, and I usually only used it once, but Tri-Brute's a really nice addition. I definitely recommend running at least 1 of both. I also cut down Victoplasma. I only run Victoplasma at 2 now, which it's because the deck was so counterblasty, especially because now I used Victoplasma as my 3rd stride instead of the 2nd, so I counterblasted a bit more. So I almost never use Plasma twice, so that's why I cut it down to 2. What Plasma does is counterblast 2, G flip. If you have 2 face-up cards in the G zone, Plasma gains the ability, after this unit attacks, discard 2, restand itself. So it's a restanding G unit for Nova Grappler, which is obviously really nice, but again, pretty counterblasty, so I really only run it at 2. And the card that I do run it for, which came out in BT-06, 4 copies of Medio Kaiser Victor, which I actually really like. It's G flip like all the other stride fusions, so stride flip over a copy of itself. It gains the ability on hit, stand a rear guard with 5k, so it basically just gains the Victon skill, but it also has GB3, when this unit attacks, stand a card with 5k, so it guarantees that. So let's say you got Victor on your Vanguard, you have Dan Shark because you couldn't get something better earlier, you got 1 copy of Hank because Hanky Danky, you have Molyaki behind Dan Shark because swag booster, and because you wanted an unflip, you got Fatal Mechanic. What you do, stride Victor. Also, let's just say this was 2nd stride, so you get the GB3, so you just stride Victon. So stride, use Victor's skill, so G flip. What you do in this situation, just want to put damage over here so you can get an idea of how many counterblasts you're going to use. So, what you do is you can, actually, Cabutron plays, so let's just do this. So what you do is 18, let's say your opponent's at 3 damage, 18 to one of their rear guards, 16 to the other. Then you attack for 31. You use Victor's Stride bonus, Counterblast 1, plus 5. Then you have, use this one just to guarantee Cool Hank. Then you have GB3, plus 5. And yeah, that's what you do. Then again, your opponent's at 3. Let's just say it hits, you have GB3, restand with plus 5. And the reason why you run Cabutron is now, Counterblast 1, move the soul, restand Molyaki. And also remember, Dan Shark restood, so you have Molyaki's ability. So, remember, these all gained 5k, so what you do is attack Vanguard for 16, then Molyaki's rush ability, 4 and 4 to Claydol and Cool Hank. Let's just say it doesn't hit because your opponent wanted to block, it's only 16. Then you attack with Claydol and Cool Hank. Both of these stood by card effects, Victor and Stride bonus, so this is going to be 26. You had the power from Molyaki that gave to Danchuk, which gave to these two. So 26 plus 4 plus 4, this is 34. You got, you have Cool Hank's GB1 to restand Shark with another 5k. So Shark is now 21k unboosted. Then, final attack, you go 28 with Molyaki. Remember, Dan Shark stood twice, Molyaki stacked. The first Molyaki ability, 4-4, turned 28 into 36. Second Molyaki, 4-4. This is now 44,000. So, this is also why I run 4 Victor, because while it is a Stride fusion, it's probably the second best Stride fusion out there after Voltage, because Voltage hits stun numbers. It's an amazing Stride fusion, and it can make really aggressive plays, so I'm glad that I'm running it for it. I'm glad it's a great alternative to having to run 4 Victoplasmas. Yeah, that about does it for the Nova deck profile. I hope you enjoyed the profile. Sincerely hope that. I hope if you were having trouble about how to work with GBT-06, this helped you out. I hope this inspired you to build Nova Grappler if you haven't before. If you have any suggestions for my build or questions about my build, you tell me, put it in the comments. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, like us on Facebook, and keep it real.